The Red Sea Crossing. Egypt is steeped with a grand history of ancient science, technology, and beautiful structures. But is there evidence of the children of Israel ever living there? Many years ago, this large stone was discovered in the first cataract of the Nile on Elephantine Island. The inscription states, "For 7 years, there had been no satisfactory inundation of the Nile. As the result of this, grain of every kind was very scarce. In this terrible trouble, King Chesser remembered the god Imhotep, who had once delivered Egypt from a similar calamity. Imhotep can be found in Egyptian history in many places, and it appears he was a sage who was elevated to a god over a period of centuries after his death. Perhaps most confident was Imhotep, the architect who probably conceived of building Zozer's tomb completely from stone. Known as a sculptor, a priest, a healer, Imhotep is considered the preeminent genius of the Old Kingdom. Imhotep had even saved his country from famine. Could Imhotep and Joseph have been one and the same person? We head to Saqqara, Egypt, a short distance south of Cairo. This is where the first pyramid was built in ancient Egypt. It is called the Step Pyramid due to the distinct levels in its shape. We can see where a smooth veneer layer of limestone had once been applied over the brick, creating a smooth surface, but most of it has since been removed. Here is where we find the statue of Pharaoh Zoser, under whom Imhotep served. It was on the base of this statue of Zoser that Imhotep was mentioned as a man, not as a god. He was first after the king, with his cartouche shown here. At the complex of buildings, the main hall is of importance to us. It was here and in other locations in Egypt that Joseph saved his country from famine. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them, 7 years of famine will deplete the land." In Joseph's day, as one entered the building, they would make their way down this hallway to purchase grain. There would be many cashiers available for customers of various languages to trade for the much-needed food. The famine was all over the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. As we exit the hallway through the area in the rear, we see over on one side a series of deep structures where grain was stored underground during the 7 years of plenty. Then over the next 7 years, it was sold to the Egyptians and visitors from other countries. A system of vertical underground silos created a cooler environment for the grain to be stored. This was the design of the genius, Joseph. When grain was removed from storage, the oldest grain was carried up by way of this long descending stairway. The grain silos were interconnected via tunnels, which allowed the grain to flow down to a central exit point located at the bottom of this stairway. A record of this event of removing the grain can be seen on hieroglyphics such as this at Thebes, showing the sacks of grain being carried up the stairs from the granaries. Another example of this can be seen at the tomb of Iti. As a way to honor the Lord of Heaven, Joseph built this first pyramid in Egypt at Saqqara to show his thankfulness to the Lord for honoring him and saving the Egyptian people from famine. In that day, there will be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. Centuries later, many other great pyramids were built in Egypt, following the lead of Joseph or Imhotep. The children of Israel were living in the best of the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. This area is the fertile Nile Delta in northern Egypt. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen. This also describes the fertile Nile Delta. The Nile Delta is shown here at the northern termination of the Nile, full of lush vegetation, in contrast to the surrounding desert. On the night of Passover, the firstborn in each Egyptian home died in the final plague. Then the children of Israel left Egypt that same day. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. On that very same day, it came to pass that all the armies of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt.